Hey y'all. I wanted to take some time to create a video of frequently asked questions. If you don't know me, my name is Siobhan. I have left the United States. I now currently live in Mexico. I have permanent residency, and I found that there are certain questions that come up about my life, about the choices I've made, about my experience, about my work, just a bunch of things. So I want to take some time to kind of do a get to know me video, answer some of your questions, and then, yeah, we can kind of go from there. So, number one, how did you end up in Mexico, girl? So the first time I visited Mexico was actually in high school. 2021 was when I decided to come down here the first time. I did a scouting trip and decided on Querétaro, Mexico at the time. I did go back to the States for a little stint of time, about 14 months. No, more like 18 months. Came back to Querétaro last fall around September. And I have permanent residency now. And yeah, that's kind of like the long and short of it. What do you do for work? I actually work for an international arts nonprofit and I work remote. I travel back and forth to the United States for work. What city am I in Mexico? I'm in Querétaro, Mexico, Santiago de Querétaro. And I would say it's probably about 3.5 hours from Mexico City. So it's more in central Mexico. Do they like Black people there? Yes. Yes, I would say that my experience here has been pretty great. I've had very few, I can count on one hand since like being here in 2021 for a couple of years, going back home, coming back. I can count on one hand how many awkward or potentially racist experiences I've had. Now, of course, no place is perfect. You have to decide, you know, what's going to be right for you. But honestly, I haven't had any major issues here. People have either left me alone or they've been kind. You really can't ask for much more than that. How did you move? What was the residency process like? So, for those of you who don't know, if you have a US passport, you can spend up to 180 days. You can get up to 180 days in Mexico visa free. But I decided to go ahead and get residency because at the time, the immigration officers were just being really unpredictable with how much time they were giving people. And that was because there were so many foreigners who were, doing the visa run. But the problem was that people were doing that for years and not actually going the proper route and getting residency. So I decided to go ahead and get residency. So I didn't have to worry about not being able to stay in my apartment or whatever. But the process itself, I don't speak Spanish fluently. And when I first got residency, I actually hired a facilitator to assist with the paperwork and help me make sure that the process was as smooth as possible. Now that I have permanent residency, thankfully, I don't have to spend those long days in the immigration office anymore. But I will tell you what, doing the immigration process in another country as an American, as someone from the United States, gives a whole different perspective on the immigration process in the States. And it allows for a certain level of understanding and empathy for people who are trying to do it, quote unquote, the right way in the United States. And I don't say that facetiously. I mean, the entire idea of borders and all of that is interesting to me, especially on stolen land, but I digress. The first time I went to get residency was temporary, it was for 1 year. The second time I went, they allowed me 3 years. And then the most recent time I went to the immigration office to re up was from temporary to permanent residency. And that was in November of 2025. That designation is great because basically I'm allowed to do just about anything a Mexican resident can do, besides vote or be involved in anything political. But I can go to school and get the local rate for university classes. I can start a business. I can work here legally. I can purchase a car, open a bank account, all the things pretty much. And so I'm very, very thankful for that. Did you give up your citizenship in order to leave the US? No, I did not. And you do not have to give up your citizenship, but you do have to have a passport. And I would say if you have not gotten your passport yet, what are you waiting for, friend? Go ahead and apply. I know that it can be a bit cost prohibitive. I have to look up the number of how much it actually costs to get one, but it's worth it. Save your money, honey, and go get your passport, especially now. The political situation in the US is dicey. We all know this. So go ahead and take care of that, friend. You moved alone. Aren't you lonely? Aren't you scared? Is it safe? I am not lonely. I mean, I'm a human being. You're going to experience moments of loneliness. It's a feeling just like anything else. But I am not lonely. I am not afraid. The the place I live is very safe. The city of Querétaro is considered one of the safest cities in Mexico. My apartment complex is incredibly safe. We have guards everywhere. But beyond that, I have traveled on my own for the majority of my adult life. And I've been incredibly blessed. The experiences that I've had, I have not had a moment where I truly felt like my physical self was in danger. And to be 100 with you, I feel safer here in Mexico than I ever did in the United States, which is unfortunate because the US is my home. But as a Black woman, I do feel safer outside of the US than I do inside. So, there's something to be said for being able to do things on your own and keep your own company and have your own back as a woman. Obviously, don't put yourself in situations that are inherently dangerous, right? There are certain countries in the world where it's pretty much understood that you don't go as a single woman by yourself. But the places I've gone, South Korea, Mexico, and a few other places, I haven't had any problems. And what's your monthly expenses look like? I want to do a video to kind of like break this down a little bit further because I think it's important. But I will say, without going into too much detail right now, my financial situation is significantly improved here because the cost of living is not as exorbitant as it is in the United States. That said, I have made sure, uh, in an effort to relocate ethically, that I live in a place where it is somewhat comparable to the level that I lived in the States to ensure that I'm not pricing out anyone like any locals. My monthly expenses from living in Raleigh, North Carolina to coming here, they have gone down by at least half. Here in Querétaro, I live in an excellent neighborhood too, very walkable. I have grocery stores within walking distance, cafes, restaurants, you know, pretty much anything I need. And interestingly enough, I have more amenities here in my apartment complex than I did when I was living in Raleigh, but I'm paying significantly less. So those are some of the most popular questions I've gotten. If you have a question about me, about like my life here in Mexico, if there are certain things that you would love to see a video on, hit me up, put it down in the chat. If you don't know me, my name is Siobhan. I'm a 40-something Black American woman trolling these internet streets, encouraging women like me to hold more agency in their lives. I've done that through solo travel, move abroad, and everyday decisions, big and small. All right, y'all. I'll see you next time.